Staying flexible is wonderful, but staying strong is what helps us stay independent. In this episode, Strong Enough to Stay Independent, I share easy, accessible strength practices that support balance, mobility, and confidence without overdoing it. You'll definitely want to watch this one on YouTube because I demonstrate the movements so you can see just how simple and doable they really are. So let's get started. Welcome to the Youthful Older Yogi podcast. I'm MJ Waddell, your host and founder of Share Yoga. I've been teaching, practicing, and loving yoga for nearly 30 years. I'm an advocate of movement, creativity, and staying healthy in mind and body after 50. It's never too late to start, and there's a lot of healthy years ahead. So let's start now. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into the Youthful Older Yogi. I'm MJ Waddell, the creator and founder of Share Yoga and your host for this podcast. I've entitled this podcast episode, Strong Enough to Stay Independent and Flexible Enough to Keep Moving. So before I dive into this episode, I'm filming this on January, towards the end of January. I believe today is the 29th of January, 2026. And I just want to say that I know it's a really uncertain time, a tumultuous time. Our nervous systems are probably just are overwhelmed and it's not healthy for us. So I didn't want to go without saying that I'm unaware of everything that's going on and how you might be feeling. So if you go to my Facebook page a few days ago, January, maybe, 5-6 days ago, I did post some places where you could help yogis who are in Minnesota. So there's the website page or Facebook page group for Minnesota yogis, and there's the Yoga Alliance page for yogis that are from Minnesota, and you can find the Minneapolis area. And there's also the YMCA, the JCC. So you can go to my Facebook page and find those links, and also the link to support Advocates for Humanity. So there are ways that we can give to our fellow yogis, sisters and brothers, and give our support. And maybe if you just buy a class pass somewhere, that might help their business because it might be struggling. So go there at my Facebook page. It's Mary Jane Waddell on Facebook. It's Jayne is Jane. And you can find some resources there if you're looking for a way to help. Okay, now on with the episode. So again, strong enough to stay independent and flexible enough to keep moving. So I just want to go back, like in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, flexibility was never, ever an issue for me. I was a musical theater professional, so lots of choreography, lots of rehearsals, lots of dance classes. My body was trained to move, and performers are athletes. So I always thought of myself as flexible and strong. And that balance felt really pretty natural to me back then. Then in my 50s, I started to feel a little bit of a shift, and nothing dramatic, just little changes. I couldn't, I couldn't do some of those high kicks anymore, or certain movements just didn't feel as available. This wasn't bad. It just felt different. And now in my 60s, I'm still flexible, but I work at it. And here's the big shift for me. I'm not really concerned with my flexibility anymore. I know I won't need to kick over my head or drop into a split, or, I don't need my body to do all those outrageously wonderful things that they did for me on stage decades ago. I'm deeply grateful I could do those things, but that's not my goal anymore. So what I care about more now is core strength. Strength that lets me move well, strength that helps me stay independent, and strength that supports the flexibility that I already have. For me, stretching just isn't as paramount anymore. The strength is. Now, that doesn't mean that flexibility doesn't matter. The beautiful thing about yoga is that it combines the two of them. You don't have to choose between one or the other. The poses invite strength and flexibility at the same time. So, that's a balance between effort and ease. And now an engaged muscle allows the opposing muscle or another muscle to stretch safely. And so what I'm much more interested in now is not how far a muscle can go, but how it really can support me at its edges. So today I want to think about these non-negotiables for independence, especially as we move into our later decades. These are the areas I'm experimenting with in my own practice and my classes. And they're backed up with what we're learning more and more about, as we want to live well. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this episode, to watch on YouTube, because at the end of the episode, I'm actually going to demonstrate some of the things I'm talking about. This is the first time I've tried to demonstrate anything. I've got my small little apartment set up, so fingers crossed, but I just thought it was important to show you some of the things that you can possibly help you in your teaching, in your practice, for your students to help maintain and grow some strength. Okay, so let's start with the feet and the ankles. As we get older, the balance, the gait, the confidence in walking becomes huge. And so much of that, of course, starts at the feet and the ankles. If your feet can't talk to the floor, the rest of you is just kind of guessing. If you can't feel your feet and your grounding, there's nothing that can happen up beyond that. So range of motion naturally decreases as we age. Joints stiffen. So as we get older, balance, gait, and confidence and walking becomes huge. And so much of that starts at the feet and ankles. So range of motion naturally decreases with age. Joints stiffen, tissues adapt. We move less in certain ways, and that's normal. But the goal isn't just stretching the feet. It's teaching them to be strong and responsive, our feet. And one of the simplest and most powerful tools you can do are slow controlled heel raises. Simple, very simple, effective, easy. Anybody can do them. You just lift your heels as high as they'll go. It doesn't matter the height. Don't worry about the height. Just lift your heels up and down. Sometimes I place a block between my thighs. It gives that inner leg support and that engagement of hugging in. Many of us tend to roll out on the outer edges of our feet. And sometimes I cue also to focus on the big toe and root it and anchor it and let it stay in conversation with the floor. And again, I'm going to demonstrate these. I'm not sure if I'm going to demonstrate. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you need to hang on to something for support, do that. And ankle mobility is another big one. And it's not just, it's not just movement. So if you don't have the flexibility, it's hard to walk. So pointing and flexing, extension and flexion with your feet, circling in both directions, using a strap or a towel to create a bit of resistance. And that resistance, that builds the strength at the edges of the movement. And that's where the stability lives. I also love a simple weight shifting. I call it the Tin Man exercise, where you're just standing and you're shifting your weight forward, back, side to side. And, people will start gripping the toes and they're rolling onto the heels, collapsing their inner edges or hanging out on the outer edges of their feet. So this exercise is just kind of like an education to feel where the four corners or the three corners, however you describe it, where the stability of your feet are and where you might need a little bit more strength encouragement. And outside of class, I always encourage people just to take your shoes off. Let your feet work. The feet and the toes are designed to work and navigate over lots of different terrains, and we smash them into shoes. They're paralyzed. So take your shoes off, everybody. Walk around in your home barefoot as much as you can. And another great thing I love to do is I love to take those toe spacers that you get in a pedicure and you put them in between your toes and you can just wear them around the house. It makes your feet feel so lovely, so wonderful. And then when you take them off, you feel like, oh, I've got so much space, and you feel like your feet are wide and it's like you feel more stabilized. So, our feet are foundational. So you have to start at the foundation, as with anything. Okay, let's move up to the legs and hips. What happens above the feet and ankles? Of course, The legs don't exist in isolation. They're attached to our pelvis and hip joints. And those connections allow us to stand, walk, climb, get up off the floor. So super important. I'm like a champion of all the muscles, those fortress of muscles that are around your hip joints, because I have two new hips. So I've done a lot of training and rehab and experimenting with our hip joints and all the muscles, strong muscles that are so essential for independence, right? Our four large quadricep muscles play a huge role, and as we age, if we lose leg strength, we lose so many other things that used to be able to do. So one of my favorite ways to work with leg strength in a yoga class is just a variation on squat. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You set up a block or two, and you just gently lower your knee, almost touching, and then straighten both legs. And I'll show you this again at the end of this episode. Tune in, watch it on YouTube, and you can see if you're a little bit, what is she talking about? I'll actually show you. Okay. And of course, traditional squats, so great. And again, if you need support, use a chair, use a wall, use a desk, whatever you need for support. I do want to say that if you are weaving these into yoga class, you can't just do them once. You can just weave them in between maybe a sun salutation, or weave them in between a pose, kind of like a transition. So maybe you're doing 3 sets of these exercises, heel raises, squats, circling the ankles. So doing it once really is kind of like the appetizer. You would need to do them 3 or 4 times during the class, right? Repetition. And that will start to increase the strength. And let's see, the squat I talked about, of course, it strengthens the quads, the glutes, the hips, and it challenges balance sometimes. And slow is key. Very slow, controlled. You can collaborate with your breath. Just be slow, deliberate, and mindful. The slower you go, the more strength you will build. So I talked about that. Chair pose, of course, another classic for a reason. It strengthens legs and glutes and a lot more, core. It's just incredibly effective, and it's really accessible to most all populations. Any kind of balance pose, standing on one leg, is huge. Doctors, they actually use this as a functional test. So standing on one leg, if you're over 50 for 30 seconds or more, it's just an indication about your future longevity. So, and if this feels hard for you to do, don't think of it as failure. Just think of it as educational, that you can work on it. You can practice balance. All of this is practice. We want our strong legs to continue to carry us and support everything above them. Okay, so let's go above the hips and the legs to the core, or the trunk. And when I talk about core strength for the 50 plus crowd, I want to say this very clearly. You don't need to do sit-ups. There's many other ways you can weave in core. I think yoga as a complete core practice all the time. Not that I'm squeezing and holding in, but I know the imagery and the feeling of hugging in from all 4 sides. So the core isn't just abs. The core, to me, it's all the muscles surrounding your trunk, front, back, and sides. And these muscles help us stay upright and transfer strength. They protect the spine, and they help us move safely. One of my favorite ways, and I'll show you again at the end of this video, is it's like a Sphinx pose. I start on a Sphinx pose. It's a gradual lifting up to forearm plank. It's a little sneaky way to get people engaged in their core before they know it. So I will guide you through that at the end of this episode. Oh, another really simple and effective exercise I learned this from Mary Richards. She works closely with Judith Lassiter, and it's done on your back, legs at 90 degrees, and it's hands on thighs. It's like a somatic exercise. And again, I'm going to demonstrate this. Super great, super accessible to people. They're just lying on their back and they're using leverage with hands and legs against each other. And it's a really great way to give them the feeling of the core igniting. the whole core. So we'll do that at the end of this as well. And it's not strained. So, in a typical sit up, if the hands are behind the head, they're straining their neck. And if they can't sit up, they might not feel as successful. And that's a mindset thing. So I like to give exercises that are accessible, and it feels like everybody is doing the same thing and receiving the same benefits, and less worry about, oh, this person may not be able to do this. So that's where I come from. Boat pose, of course, the classic boat pose. And support in boat pose is not cheating. I'll show you a few different ways at the end of this. Holding the back of the thighs, using the hands, using a strap, whatever helps the trunk stay lifted. And then little by little, as you gain more strength, you can start to, take away some of the support. And it's amazing. The body will get stronger pretty quickly if you practice, okay? And the last tip, sit up straight. Slumping is just gross, okay? Sitting up already, your muscles have to engage around your trunk and core to maintain the spine in its integrity. To sit up straight, just sit up straight. Even when you're standing in line, try not to slouch, try to sit up straight, stand up straight, find your feet, stand up straight. So simple, so effective. So really it's support first, strength second. Okay, let's move on to the wrists and the hands. So this is another thing that doctors look at. They measure grip strength. And, this matters so much more than we realize. Opening jars, carrying groceries, pushing yourself up from the floor, holding a steering wheel. There's just so many things we do with our hands. And again, this is for people that live alone, that are older. This is exactly what my goal is. It's not a goal, it's what I practice. I want to stay independent. I don't have a husband or kids or, anyone nearby that can rush in to help. So staying independent is extremely important to me. And even if you do have that support, you want to stay independent. So these are really simple things you could do. You don't have to go to a yoga class to do them. You can just do them while you're waiting for your egg to fry or your toast to toast, or there's so many ways you can just weave these in automatically, and it just becomes a habit. So in later decades, wrist mobility, it just isn't what it used to be, and that's okay. We adapt with hands on blocks, something rolled possibly under the heels of the hands, changing the angle, right, of the extension. We don't avoid wrist work, we just adapt to it. And grip strength can be taught so easily. And I'll show you, you can teach them how to claw their fingertips in the mat. You can teach them simply with jazz hands and ask them to make claws, and you can feel the strength, the musculature in your hands just to hold that. And there's a couple other things I'll show you here too. I have a favorite prayer pose that I do, and these help to build grip strength and wrist strength at the same time. I also hold some blocks like platters, and I'll show you some simple ways you can weave that in. Even if you don't have blocks, you can hold something else. So, and again, you don't want to do this just one time. You want to do it throughout your class, weave it in, throughout your practice, weave it in, throughout your day, weave it in, and you don't have to do all of them every day. Consistency, just try to be consistent and you will see a shift. You will feel the strength coming on. So just to recap, these are just a few simple ways to add more strength into your practice or your classes. And it's not a checklist, it's just an invitation to do these things. And it's not just for people 55 plus, this is for anybody at all. They're available for anyone and valuable to any age. If you're a teacher, I really encourage you to try these practices in your own practice first and feel them out, feel them in your body, practice your cueing, let them become familiar to you before you share them, and, bring your own individuality to it. Sometimes introducing something new or a little odd, it just wakes people up, and it reminds them that yoga doesn't have to feel like the same class on repeat. Variety is the spice of life. So I'd love to hear from you what you practice or teach to stay strong, flexible, and mobile. This is an ongoing conversation always. And I also want to again stress that I'm not saying flexibility doesn't matter. I'm saying strength as we lean into later years specifically, it's something that most of us have to work on because we are not, out plowing the fields anymore, or you're not picking your kids up, you're not doing some of the things that you used to do. So we need to stay strong and stay flexible at the same time. And that to me is what living well is really about. So please visit my website. I'd love to see you there at shareyogawithmj.com, shareyogawithmj.com. Please sign up for my free newsletter. You get news on workshops that I may be doing around the Florida area or possibly up in Rochester, New York, and also news on retreat that I lead in the fall, and so much more. So it's a free newsletter. I maybe send it out twice a month at the most, usually once a month. I kind of have to remember to do it. So I understand you don't want to be bombarded with emails, but I'd love to see you just sign up there, or you can just email me and there's a contact there for any comments or suggestions or anything, just anything at all. Love to hear from you. So thanks again so much for listening. And if you've listened to the end, now I'm going to go over to my mat and show you a few of the things that I have shared with you in this episode. The first thing I wanted to talk, or I did talk about, was just simple heel raises. So I'm just hanging on to the wall here. You can hang on to a chair or whatever, something, or nothing at all, and simple heel raises up and down. Doesn't matter the height, just simple heel raises. I would do between 15 and 20, weave them into your practice. Putting a block in between your thighs like this really helps to engage the inner muscles. So that's it, simple heel lifts, okay? Then you can do rotations. You can do this, on hands and knees or wherever, going in both directions, simple, effective. And then there's also, you can use straps. So this is an elastic, right? But you can use a yoga strap too. And basically I would do this seated. So seated and just pointing and flexing against a bit of resistance. So just pointing and flexing, it's just a bit of resistance. So you can do it seated on your mat, seated on a chair. It really, you can feel the strength, and then the strap or the flexible strap helps with extension and flexion. So those are some simple things you can do for your feet and ankles to build strength. The Tin Man thing that I talked about, basically it's just kind of moving to the side, right and left, tilting forward, tilting back on your heels, forward on your toes, and then you just find where you find that place where you feel grounded and stable. Lifting, spreading the toes, gripping the toes, lifting the toes, gripping the toes. That's another way to get your toes, into the program. And also putting in those toe spacers, really great. So moving on to the legs, I talked about a variation of a squat. So I've got 2 blocks set up here, and I'm just going to put one knee on the block and the other knee down. So you can use 1 block, 2 blocks, doesn't really matter. And then all you do, you take an inhale. As you exhale, you straighten both legs, okay? As you inhale, you just gently bring the knee down. You don't want to put your weight on, you just want to tap it and then straighten it up. So if this feels too easy for you, take a block away. Some of you, if you're stronger, you might not need blocks at all, and you bring your knee as close to the mat, just tap it and then straighten both legs. But this gives somebody or people perspective where the knee can go, how it can lower. And you do both sides. That's a really effective one. I love putting that into class. It really ignites all these strong muscles here. Of course, we've got our traditional boat pose, right? Utkatasana. So in boat pose, hips back. Don't worry about where your arms are. Really, it's just about moving the pelvis back. Okay, you don't want to rock all the way back on your heels. So a lot of people say you should say, see your toes when you're doing this. I always encourage my students, when you feel you're having a conversation with these strong muscles, that's where you stay and breathe. And you can do it dynamically, coming in and out of it. You can hold onto chair or whatever you have to support yourself. Okay, and also a regular squat, just with feet out a little bit and just squatting and squeezing inner thighs as you come up. So squatting, right? I think they call this the sumo squat and other things, right? So there you go. And again, weave it in. Do like 3 to 4 sessions in between, a sun salutation or in between the poses. This next one, we're moving on to the trunk and the core. So this is one of my favorites that I like to use. You start in the shape of the Sphinx pose. So you're on your forearms, elbows underneath shoulders. With your hands, you can have the hands down. You can come on the outer edges. You can bring them together. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you're pressing down forearms, hands, however the hands are. So here you are. You're taking an inhale. And on the exhale, you invite your students or yourself to lift your lower abdominals. So I'm going to inhale. And then as I exhale, I'm going to lift my lower abdominals. I'm going to take another inhale. And as I exhale, I'm going to lift my pelvis and hips up. Toes will be curled behind you. I'm going to take another inhale. And as I exhale, first I'll start with cueing them just to lift one knee and thigh up off the mat. And then lower it down. You're still drawing the lower abdominals and the hips and pelvis are off the mat. And then lift the other knee up. So your whole leg, left leg is off the mat, lower it down, and then lift either one knee or the other. You can go one leg at a time or you can lift both legs at a time. And then to come down very slowly, knees, thighs, pelvis, and then I have them rest. You just kind of wiggle side to side. So again, you start off elbows under shoulders, toes are curled. Take an inhale. As you exhale, lift the lower abdominals off the mat. Take another inhale. As you exhale, lift the hips and pelvis off the mat. So your thighs are still on the mat. Take an inhale. Exhale, either lift one leg at a time or both legs at a time. Stay for a couple breaths. And then very slowly, knees down, thighs down, pelvis down, belly down, relax down, and just bring your hips side to side. I love that one. Okay, and then the other one, of course, is boat pose. So in boat pose, I always encourage people to support themselves. So I have them lean back first and then lift their legs. So you can use fingertips, piano fingers, whatever you call them. And I encourage them to draw their shoulders on their back towards each other and lift the trunk. So, for fun, you can go, this is the sinking boat and this is the floating boat, right? Doesn't matter where the legs are, they're off the ground. Even if they're here and they're lifting the trunk, either heels or toes or feet down, lifting the trunk and keeping the trunk here, you're halfway back, lifting one leg at a time, the other leg, holding behind the thighs, lifting. You don't want to collapse. So you can tell people if you feel you're collapsing, use yourself to pull yourself up. Feet don't have to be lifted. You start where you feel your trunk doing the most work. All the core muscles are helping your spine stay lifted, not collapse. So lots of ways to do that. Here, 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 whatever it is for you. Okay. You can also use a strap. And I like this way too. You're lifting, and it feels so effortless like this. And then you have them keep lifting the spine. And then you say, just let go. and try to stay there. Fun. Okay. The other one by Mary Richards that I really love is you're on your back like this. You've got 90 degrees with the legs. You place your hands on top of your thighs, right above your knees here. You take an inhale. As you exhale, you press your thighs and hands against each other. Exhale, release. I'm sorry, inhale, release. So on the exhale, you press. On the inhale, you release. You're pressing equally thigh bones into hands, hands into thigh bones. Take an inhale. Exhale, press equally, thigh into hand, hand into thighs. Release. So effective. You can't see it working, but I guarantee you they will feel it working. So with the wrists and the hands, let me get my blocks here. I showed you earlier, you can just do jazz hands and have them claw their fingers and just hold there. I like challenging them by holding the blocks like a platter. So I'm just holding the blocks like a platter. Okay, and I'm bringing my hands out to the side. So I'm not gripping with my thumb or anything. The block is just resting completely on my palms. My fingers are not doing anything but holding them. Arms straight out. I'm going to do this down on my knees so you can see over my head. And then on an inhale, you lift the blocks up and you try to bring the edges together. You will feel this in the wrists. Most people will, unless you're in Cirque du Soleil, and then you just bring them back up. This is a nice one for their shoulders too. So inhale, you're trying to bring the inside edges of the blocks together. If you don't have blocks, you can do it without blocks. Just lift up, bring the inside of your wrists together. Sometimes I have them bring their hands down like their fingers are in a lotus shape, and then they come back out. So inhale, and then exhale, either back out to the side, and you can do flexion on the way back out. So this is extension on the way up, flexion on the way out, with or without the blocks. And then this one. Oh, this one, I'll come closer to you to show you this. This is, you can put your hands in prayer, and you're going to level your elbows, your forearms, and your wrists here, right here, okay? Thumbs are just at the heart space. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, you press equally into both hands. Fingers are spread. So you're pressing equally into all 10 fingers. Relax your shoulders as much as possible and press equally into the hand. Take an inhale. And as you exhale, maintain your hand shape and just separate your hands. And you'll feel your wrists working. So again, all you do is press against your hands equally. Inhale. Maintain the shape of your hands and just separate them. Yeah, do it a few times. Then you can always, of course, roll the wrists around, all of that. So I hope this helps. Again, it's my first time demonstrating on the mat for you, but it's been challenging setting up my apartment space to do this. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks again so much for listening and staying to the end. And again, if you have just listened to this, and you want to watch it, just go to my YouTube channel. You can just go The Youthful Older Yogi on YouTube, and it'll come up, okay? So thank you so much for being here, and until we meet again, keep sharing yoga. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. Now you can go to my show notes on YouTube or Buzzsprout and send me a voicemail or email. I'd love to hear what topics you'd like me to speak about, what your thoughts are on the episodes, and maybe I'll share your message on a future episode. Please subscribe to my website, shareyogawithmj.com, so you can receive my newsletters and be first to know about my retreats, workshops, courses, and freebies. If you navigate on social media, you can find me mostly on Facebook and a bit on Instagram at Mary Jane Waddell. That's Jane with a Y, Jayne. This podcast would not be possible without the help of my editor, Dan Jones from Cocoa Beach Productions. You can find Dan at cocoabeachweb.com. And of course, thanks to my generous guests who share their time, insights, and youthful wisdom. Remember, the Youthful Older Yogi podcast is presented solely for educational, inspirational, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for a physician or other qualified professionals. Okay, yogis, stay well, stay youthful, and keep sharing yoga.